People constantly call me a grifter. And I was really confused when I first got in the space. I was like, what the hell is a grifter? And so I Googled it. I'm a Googler. You know what I mean? Let me just to make sure I got it right. The definition of a grifter. A person who engages in petty or small scale swindling. A fraud. And I was thinking about it and I'm like, a fraud? What do I sell? I don't sell anything! Now, don't get me wrong. I'm thinking about selling a YouTube course.
This idea that women are naturally better parents is not true. It is not the case.
I would argue that men are the most discriminated group against in society.
Marriage is a bad deal for men. This statement is simply a fact. I say, hey, fat chicks are fat, and they get mad at me. But I mean, they're fat.
This week, she's facing a major backlash of posting a song titled, Why Can't We Talk About the Jews? Why did you do that?
Women ruin relationships and they ruin families.
I actually think that women like to be cheated on.
I found out that only 5% of women wanted the right to vote.
Women cry abuse for everything, and we've actually lost the meaning of abuse. The feminists do is they expand the definition of abuse to include things like coercive control, financial abuse, and even physical abuse.
I got banned off of TikTok. Yes!
Where were you on December 29th, 2022? That was a day full of some of the most catastrophic events in recent history. Russian missile strikes were carried out against Ukraine. 38 people were reported passed in a devastating blizzard in New York. Soccer icon Pele passed away at the age of 82. For those who follow the news, it was endless mayhem with no end in sight and very few silver linings. But there weren't zero, because December 29th, 2022 was also a huge day for people wishing to seek justice for some of the most disturbing allegations I've ever discussed on my channel. The allegations against Andrew Tate, the top G, the tater-tot potato boy, and alleged professor at Husser's University, basically the place you go when Petty University won't even look at your transcripts for being a misogynistic ass clown.
I don't care if they ban me, I don't care if they cancel me. I say what I think, and if some of my views come across in a misogynistic tone, then that is your problem.
Now, Andrew Tate is the type of guy who believes, unironically, in upholding gender roles like, you know, women being housemakers, and that R-word victims need to bear responsibility for their own attacks. He also purposefully targeted dating 18 to 19-year-old girls to make an imprint on them.
But I said that if a woman is going out with a man, she belongs to that man. That's his woman. So if she wants to do OnlyFans, she owes him some money because she's his. Yes, that's what I said.
Well, that's crazy.
You think? Yeah, some stained skid marks never seem to completely wash out. So it came as no surprise when Andrew Potato Tate and his brother were arrested in Romania on suspicion of human trafficking, forming an organized crime group, and this was international news, and Andrew Tate, for better or mostly pretty much all worse, was known around the world for his red pill and top G assery and dangerous antics, with one article in The Guardian even stating that, quote, virtually every parent in Britain knew who he was because of his content. And now that he was arrested, a massive hole existed in the manosphere for casual misogyny and defensive culture at large. Gee, whatever shall they do? And with that, many creators popped up to fill that void. Creators like Bacon and Eggs, I mean Fresh and Fit, janky half-rate Tate ripoffs like Sneeko, and a 6'1" former volleyball star who went by the name JustPearlyThings, who became one of the most heavily discussed and infamous members of the manosphere by far in 2022 and 2023.
It's just, you know, celebrating being a woman for being a woman. And what have we really accomplished? We don't do the majority of hard jobs in society. 1 out of 3 of us has had an abortion. 1 out of 4 of us has an STD. 90% of us have been on birth control. You know, the birth rate is falling because of women's choices. You know, at the end of the day, why don't we talk about accomplishment rather than just focus on being a woman for being a woman? It's the same thing as a participation trophy.
So what was it about JustPearlyThings that caught so many people's attention? Well, for one, JustPearlyThings was a woman. How dare they? A woman! Pearl, as she's known, popped up in the early 2020s with fairly standard TikTok content before making a hard pivot into red pill content that she herself has called misogynistic or anti-feminist.
What's
and STDs got to do with it?
Oh, women's poor choices. I mean, honestly, we've had more choice in the last 100 years than ever. And we just choose poorly. You know, a lot of times what feminists do is they rewrite history and make it seem like we were much more oppressed than we were. Women have historically been a protected class and have had more rights than the average man.
Her notoriety comes from countless viral moments, like the absurd claim that women shouldn't be allowed to vote.
A lot of people think I'm insane because I don't think women should vote. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for this opinion. If anything, this is probably my most extreme opinion. 90% of women have been on birth control. 1 out of 3 women has had an abortion. 1 out of 3 women has an STD. Average body count is over 5, so that your average wife has slept with over 5 people. 95% of women are not virgins on their wedding days. So I understand the complaint.
Or that her being compared to Andrew Tate is a compliment.
Right, Pearl, you'd be called the female Andrew Tate. How do you plead?
Well, I take it as a compliment. You know, I'm a fan of Andrew Tate.
Or that women who aren't virgins are bad. Big, big, big bad, because women are supposed to be better at that than men, which is purity. By the way, she's not a virgin. And that a woman who isn't a virgin on her wedding day is just as bad as a man who cheats, even though Pearl herself is not a virgin and isn't married. But, you know, the rules for thee and all. Pearl is so extreme that even Mikhaila Peterson, the daughter of right-wing figurehead Jordan Peterson and the architect of the carnivore diet where you only eat red meat and nothing else, thinks she's awful, okay? Yeah, there's gonna be a few more added to that list, yeah. But how did we end up at a point where Andrew Tate but female was even something that could make a splash on the internet? Why should we care? And more importantly, as you'll see in the very last lines of this very video, how the hell did Pearl become the very thing she hates so damn much? And this is what we know. Oh, hi there. Hello, hello, hi. It's my face again. Swoop! Today we are talking about Just Pearly Things because this video has been sitting in my drafts since literally last year while I was at the time contemplating reaching out for an interview, but I figured it's time, let's put this out. I've been sitting on this forever. Now we will be touching upon Pearl and the manosphere, both of which believe that women should, I guess, be, I don't know, dressed in floral turtlenecks all the time, so I dug deep, I mean deep into my closet, and I picked the most conservative outfit that I could find, okay? So here we are. Congratulations, Pearl. I'm ready for society. Now, if you're seeing me for the first time, welcome. I'm a documentary filmmaker and commentary creator, and I make swoop docs on unsolved cases, true crime, and social media influencers who abuse their power and manipulate audiences because, as I always say, it's not drama, it's dangerous. We also dig deeper into some root psychology, perspectives, play devil's advocate, and sometimes we take it to petty university, because petty is my coping mechanism for asshats in the manosphere, okay? This is what we do. If you want to join the Petty University community, all are welcome, and connect with me on Instagram and Twitter for a chance to be featured in upcoming swoop docs. And of course, you can grab your very own apparel pieces from the Valid Ribcage and Valid Social Club collection linked in the Petty University shop as always. Now, they may not be there much longer, okay? I've been working on some new things, so just a heads up for that. Okay, real quick before we continue, I gotta ask a question. Would you rather be too hot or too cold? I, for one, personally can't stand being too hot, especially in the summer when everything is just like sticky and sweaty and gross. But thankfully, I am feeling cool and comfortable as ever with MeUndies' new Dream Seam line. I am talking the most buttery soft, comfortable, dreamy underwear and bralettes I have ever put on my body, and every body needs to get your body in a set. MeUndies' Dream Seam features cloud-like, buttery, stretchy fabric and barely there bonded edges, giving your booty unparalleled comfort and the most beautiful fit. They are designed without those scratchy labels to eliminate irritation, and I can wear these all day long. Like, they're so good, I almost forget that I'm wearing anything, okay? The scandal of it all. And even better, these ultra-light undies are virtually invisible under any type of clothing, meaning none of those VPLs your mom warned you about. You can wear these with confidence knowing they won't create any unwanted bulges or lines. They seriously just hug my curves in all the right ways. No pinch, no folds, just dreamy butter. MeUndies' Dream Seam line comes in a huge selection of silhouettes for whatever occasion you're dressing for, and every style is super comfy. Like, they have the most gorgeous nudes and natural color palettes, which, honey, okay, I love me me a chic tan set. And they also have the cutest ever prints and patterns that you can mix and match to have some fun, and offer sizes extra small to 4XL with some stretch, which we love to see that size inclusivity. And for the first time, MeUndies is offering a strapless option with their bandeau that has removable straps for extra support and versatility for your looks. And MeUndies also now offers removable pads in their bralettes. This is exclusive to the Dream Seam bra, so check it out because, honey, we love options. And let me just tell you, as someone with chronic pain, I am so freaking particular about my bras because my neck will scream at me if I wear the wrong kind. And these bralettes are an absolute dream come true. I'm telling you, friends, comfort is more than a dream this summer with MeUndies' new Dream Seam line. Check out the link in the description and get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/swoop. I absolutely love MeUndies. I'm not letting these go. So go to MeUndies.com/swoop to get 20% off your first order plus free shipping and treat yourself, honey. You deserve it. Okay, back to the doc. Before we were blessed with the gracious power of, just pearly things, the world had to deal with just Hannah things, specifically a woman named Hannah Pearl Davis. This is Hannah. Hannah Banana, Hannah Faux Tana, Hannah Morphus, oh Hannah na 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 na. Hannah grew up in Chicago alongside 9 siblings in a 10-bedroom house. A 10-bedroom house is massive. That's all I gotta say there.
Yeah, well, it's a funny story. I grew up with 6, and I was the second to 6. I was the oldest girl. My mom actually got pregnant when she was 17 and from my dad, and they gave that kid up for adoption. They ended up getting married like 5 years later, but he grew up, and then I didn't know he existed till I was 22. And then we like reunited with him, and now like he comes to family stuff and whatever. And then they adopted 3 teenagers. And then there was a kid on my brother's football team that was homeless. And so it was kind of like The Blind Side. If he was Chaz, they adopted him. And so then it was 10 total.
If you know anything about real estate, especially in major cities, you could probably deduce that a 10-bedroom house does not come cheap. Couple that with the fact that her parents are super successful software titans who founded the multi-million-dollar company Davisware, and you start to get a clear picture that Hannah was raised in a position of privilege, something you could actually see in her oldest, less repugnant content, which of course has, all been removed from the internet. Now, this clip was showing her parents' new water slide, and I'm not talking about one of those little slides on the side of a pool.
A water park in Illinois that had a water slide that actually paralyzed a guy. And my parents actually saw that the water slide from that park was on sale, so they actually bought the water slide, and this is what it looks like. And here is the side view. So like, if you want to hear the full story about how the town actually didn't want us to put the slide up.
So something really interesting to note is that Hannah's mom is a bit of a badass, according to her LinkedIn, having once been a teacher until moving on to becoming the CEO and helped build a very successful company in Davisware, like we mentioned. Her founding of Be Exponential, of which she was the CEO, which is a company for women by women, while she also served on the board of directors as the treasurer for United Nations for Women USA, or UN Women, according to the research. If you're unfamiliar with UN Women, their mission statement is, quote, UN Women is the United Nations entity responsible for promoting women's empowerment and gender equality. UN Women's priority areas are expanding women's leadership and political participation, enhancing women's economic empowerment, and ending violence against women, just to name a few of their goals. So I want to say it again. This is Hannah Pearl Davis's mom. We're gonna let that sink in, because context of where someone comes from often matters in their behavior. It's always going to be a question of, is Pearl lashing out as kind of like the rebellious kid because maybe she grew up, in a household and there were 10 kids there and she's vying for attention? Maybe her parents were working a lot and she felt like they weren't around enough. It's a lot to think about. Of course, most of it's all going to be speculation unless she speaks about it, but it is interesting.
The industries that women run are the industries we complain about. So healthcare is mostly women. We're always complaining about how healthcare is not there to help you. Same with teachers, okay? Colleges. The institutions run by women, we all complain about. So one, the teachers are these single feminist women that don't have kids of their own, so they just try to indoctrinate yours.
Now, I won't be digging further into her parents for many obvious reasons, but I will say that Pearl does have a long-standing track record of praising her father for his accomplishments while constantly disparaging her mother's professional accomplishments for the sake of positioning women as lesser than beings so that she can then continue this very false narrative that men are the superior being in all facets of life, especially in business.
I grew up in a family business too, so my dad hired people all the time. Like, he had over 200 employees.
Wasn't your mom the president? Was she the leader of the company?
What was you're researching my family now, huh?
Well, that's all public.
No, my mom, I mean, I don't know what they titled it. Like, I don't
Your
think
mom
really
was the president, I believe, but
yeah,
based on an interview
they might have titled it one thing or another. They wanted to get some grant, so I think like they might have had her, like, they did that to get some grant from the government or something. I don't remember.
And yeah, is that a crime?
Yeah, you probably shouldn't say that on air.
So, fiddly-dee! Anyways, despite what you may believe about Hannah or what she might even say in her content, she didn't always used to be this way. A woman on TikTok named Emily K came out earlier in 2023 with a series of stories detailing an alleged friendship, a best friendship at that, allegedly, that she had with Hannah from pre-K education all the way up until March 2022, which lines up pretty well with Hannah's transformation into Just Pearly Things. As far as I know, Hannah has never directly commented on these videos from Emily, but considering the sheer amount of receipts that Emily has, including photos of them as, you know, both kids and adults, I'm inclined to take her word for it.
So Hannah and I were friends from 2002 pre-K until last year when I stopped being friends with her. And she even came to know my friend group here in Michigan when I was still in college and even tried to date 2 of them. It didn't work out. So they'll send stuff to me and I watch it because I just want to see what bullshit she has to say next. And I have a theory about this. Not that it's literally any excuse that she's doing this, because what she is doing, I can't even put into words how disgusting it is. But I've known her since 2002. I do not think she thinks that way. If she does, f her all over again, I don't care. But I don't think she does. I think she does it to rev people up and to get more views and to get more money.
Now, to be completely fair to Hannah, people are capable of change, and especially of changing opinions, politics, allegiances, and so on. You know, the older we get, like, if you're doing life the way I think it's intended, then everyone changes to some degree. In any case, after high school, Hannah went to Elmhurst University, a private religious university that costs over $50,000 a year to attend, depending on like how many kids are going there and like all the, you know, the added on things that you got to do, which is where Hannah started going by the name you know her by professionally, Pearl. This is also where she allegedly majored in economics and business administration and later received her master's in psychology. Now, that amount of education might be surprising to you, and it also raises a thing that I was just talking about this with someone else, of like, psychologists are incredible, but also psychologists are human beings and can also have really alarming or f***ed up ideologies. And so it really matters to do your research if you're looking to see a psychology or a psychiatrist or a clinician or someone to help you with mental health. Please do research the people that you seek guidance from. That's all I'm going to say. Back to Pearl. That amount of education might be surprising to a lot of people, but Hannah is either very modest about it or very honest when she says that the only reason she went down those paths is because she thought that they would be easy and a way for her to keep doing the things that she loved.
I was pretty goofy. I was very much about sports. So I did 3 different sports. I did volleyball, basketball, and I ran track. And that's pretty much all that mattered to me until I was like 21, 22. And I'm really family oriented.
And speaking of those things she loved, while Hannah was at Elmhurst, 2 very important things happened. First, she spent her final 3 years of undergrad playing women's volleyball and doing a pretty damn good job at it, to be honest, from the looks of, you know, her stats. And today I also learned that Hannah Davis is 6'1" and she could probably f me up physically. So, you know, Hannah, please keep the kills on the court. You know, you're doing great, sweetie. The second thing was discovering the likes of this chuckle f.
So first of all, let's start with the notion of white privilege, which has become this buzzword that you hear all the time now, white privilege. is responsible for everything up to and including the Kardashians. It's responsible for everything, white privilege. White privilege is a way to silence anybody who is not of color. That's what white privilege is. It is just a leftist bullshit term that means shut up because you are not a member of a minority group, a privileged minority group in the leftist space. It's reverse racism of the highest order.
Great. According to an interview with Insider, one of the biggest life-changing moments for Hannah, per her own admission, was discovering notorious right-wing thinkers like Ben Shapiro and Thomas Sowell, as well as YouTube. Now, if you don't know who Ben Shapiro is, then objectively speaking, he's one of the most well-known conservative speakers in America and has been for quite some time, creating your Facebook uncle's favorite website, the Daily Wire, and once serving as an editor for Breitbart News. One of those takes is going to be the right pronunciation. Just, yeah, hopefully. But none of that was what appealed to Hannah Rama. This was.
Being transgender is about the bravest thing you can do. Yes.
Why are we mainstreaming delusion?
It's not delusion.
Why would you call it delusion?
Because Caitlyn Jenner, I'll call him Caitlyn Jenner.
No,
because
it's
that's
her. You're not being polite to the pronouns.
Because
disrespectful.
Okay, forget about the disrespect. Facts don't care about your feelings. It turns out that every chromosome, every cell in Caitlyn Jenner's body is male with the exception of some of his sperm cells.
Owning the libs, bruh. Dude, our political system is so cooked. Okay, this was Ben Shapiro's bread and butter, and even today is still a huge part of his appeal for the side of YouTube that's still kind of stuck back in 2016. And no, this isn't a political video. And yes, everyone has the right to their political beliefs, even if it involves generally being an asswipe. But the fact remains, a big part of Ben Shapiro's brand is a professional speaker, debating liberal college students and then releasing the footage of that debate as a way to own the libs. Now, to Hannah, Ben's approach was revolutionary, especially when you consider that Ben Shapiro's own YouTube channel today has 6.5 million subs. His videos and compilations of his most popular debates average millions of views, and his company, The Daily Wire, as of 2022, is said to be averaging $100 million in annual revenue. So it's no surprise that Hannah once tweeted, "Ben Shapiro is responsible for so many people being conservative. He is absolutely one of the goats of my generation. I used to watch his owning libs." Sorry, I can't. It makes me laugh every time people say things like that about either side of the aisle, but okay. I used to watch his owning the libs video all of the time. Also not surprising that she got sent down the path she eventually went down with her red pill content, okay? She's owning the pill, and not even the one that she thinks that pill should be illegal. The red pill's safe.
What kind of got me into like the red pill stuff was just seeing how a lot of people didn't have that like strong family unit. And I don't know, growing up, it was like good for me, I think.
I'm getting ahead of myself, but before she got there, she got her feet wet on TikTok with a series called Breakup Quiz, where, according to a fawning article on YouTube about her, was where she, quote, helped participants figure out the reason why their relationships fell apart.
Next up on the You Cheated on Me quiz, we have John. Are we still together? No. Did you cheat with anyone else? If so, who? Next up on the You Cheated on Me quiz, we have Marcus. Are we still together? Yes. Who did you cheat with? Your sister.
Now, I've got to be completely honest, even more than the red pill content, I don't know what the purpose of these videos were in the slightest, which, you know, it's fine. There's a lot of content that doesn't serve any purpose other than it's just, you know, it's there. Hannah would apparently post a questionnaire. People would fill it out and submit it, and she would then read it out loud with no commentary.
Next up on the You Slept With My Man quiz, we have Maddie, age 21. Are you still together? No. Did you know he was taken? I never asked. How long were you guys together? 6 months.
According to that YouTube article, though, her original TikTok account she posted these on managed to gather over 900,000 followers, but don't go looking for that account now, because other than the breakup quiz, one of the major things that Hannah did with her TikTok was, well, get banned and banned and banned and banned and then banned again and then banned again.
I got banned off of TikTok. Gasp. 2 years. 2 years of work, 930,000 followers, and I have been officially banned. They've taken my account.
But also,
this poses the question. Whenever conservatives or red pillars try to spread their ideas on different platforms, why are we the ones that are banned?
Sorry to say, you look at the population of women out there,
average emotional intelligence is about 14 years old, no matter how old they are in real life.
Yeah, actually, I tweeted that I didn't think women matured past like 17 at best.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I think like the best are like 17, 18.
I've been with a couple that were like 4 or 5.
Yeah, so we've now arrived at the section titled Hannah Davis being a prescription for a little red pill that has a bitter taste and nasty side effects. First, what exactly do I mean by red pill?
Everyone saw me getting red pilled on camera. That was how I started.
It's a term that has been spread far and wide across the internet for a very long time now, but it's generally very heavily attributed to originating from the film The Matrix, where Keanu Reeves' character is given a choice between a red and a blue pill by Lawrence Fishburne's character. Y'all know the scene, you know, you take the blue pill, the story ends, you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Honestly, y'all. So I've done a full Swoop doc on Andrew Tate. I've done Fresh and Fit, and now we're doing Pearl. And I honestly can't believe that these people's ideologies largely came from a fictional movie with characters that don't exist in real life. But you know, to each their own. I'm sure they would just, you know, refer to me lovingly, I'm sure, as that blue-haired bitch with too many opinions. So whatever. In short, the red pill is a metaphor for seeing the truth as it really is, or, you know, some shit. Funnily enough, Hannah baby isn't much of a Matrix fan though, so so to her, this is what red pilling actually means.
You know what's funny? I've never seen that movie. I've heard this term, but like it means like men are told one thing about women and like how to be, so they're like, be nice to her, treat her like a queen, da 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 da. And women don't actually want that. Like we don't really like guys that put us on pedestals. I think sometimes we think we do, but we don't. And so it's like men basically seeing the world for what it really is.
So yeah, in a nutshell, oh wait, she's a pearl, right? So in an oyster shell, she's basically become another manosphere influencer like Andrew Potato Tot Tate or Fresh and Fabulous, only, you know, not a man. So do I have some feelings about this? I'm sorry, have we met? Of course I have feelings. We'll get to those, but why did she dive into such a weird, toxic space for women?
Well, it started with high value men. That was Kevin Samuel's like talking point, and he would list like the attributes of a high value man or whatever it was. Like my dad fit that description, and I was just like, this is what you guys think like this is like. And then I kind of like dove more into the red pill space. I don't know, I'm just nosy. Like I wanted to know what the boys were talking about, because it started with like pickup and I don't know, like dating women. So it was really interesting to like see it from like the men's point of view.
Oh, it's okay, y'all. She did it because she wanted to know what the boys were talking about. And we all know the boys always share exactly what they're feeling and always do it in a healthy and productive way. All of them.
I'm a gift to females created by the one above.
Men and women, we're very different. We have opposing goals. Like girls are trying to, you know, get resources, time, attention out of guys. Guys are trying to get sex. And when women lose sexual leverage, guess what? They have no power, because that's their only fucking power. Women's value is 100% determined by the way that they look. Men age like wine, women age like milk.
Release some greenhouse gases. Please bring me pizza and make sure that these boxes are not recycled.
I do not read books. I don't read books.
I don't vote.
So no woman is special, but yet you guys have a whole podcast dedicated to how to get women.
If you got a girl and she has an Instagram as well as maybe sexy photos of herself on the internet, that is cheating. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That is fucking cheating.
I will not administer CPR unless you're a hot female.
By the way, just in case anyone is like tempted to think like, oh, Swoop doesn't, she's like anti-men. No, my closest, dearest friends, many of them are men. They are incredible. I love men. I love men, you know what I'm saying? They're brilliant, they're wonderful, but also a lot of them aren't. So we're just talking in reality. I don't deal in absolutes. Pearl does not represent the way all women think, even though I guess she wants to portray that way. And Andrew Tate certainly does not the way all men are, okay? Okay, I'm glad we got that out of the way. Still, you may be asking, what kind of woman would actually believe any of this, and why would she?
Or even girls, they'll ask me like, how can you listen to this man? And I have one answer for you. Low self-esteem.
Oh, it's actually a really efficient self-dunk there? Like, really surprisingly self-aware. Hannah, by her own words, pivoted to the manosphere because she has low self-esteem. So, I mean, we could stop here. The story is done. It explains it. She potentially very much dislikes herself or hates herself even, and she hates her place as a woman, and she is perfectly okay with equating her being a bad woman in her own eyes with all women being bad. See, that's where the problem lies.
I haven't thought highly of myself. I never thought that I deserved a lot, to be honest. I never thought of myself as a queen. And I never thought of myself super highly.
But at the same time, hold up, like what about some nuance, right? Let me take a quick perspective moment here as we do in a Swoop doc and ask you a question. If Pearl got into the manosphere as a woman because she dislikes herself and has low self-esteem, as a woman, doesn't that more or less prove that much of the manosphere is literally designed to appeal to and prey upon impressionable minds who dabble in internal and external misogyny? Doesn't that highlight that the manosphere, which claims to not be misogynistic, which I cannot say that with a straight face, but they claim they're not. Doesn't that kind of highlight that they're using tactics to target and deepen someone's dislike for women in order to grift a whole ass community? Because they say they're just empowering men, not women. It's just a thought. And if that's what's happening, does that make Pearl kind of a victim to this type of targeting? Yeah, I didn't think I was gonna go there and play devil's advocate this quickly, but here we are. So let me know what your thoughts are on that as we move throughout this. The truth is, no matter how sincere Hannah's ideology surrounding the red pill space is, and again, it's very questionable because sometimes I don't actually know that she buys any of this that she's saying, but she had to have seen what a massive business opportunity it could be to hitch her post in such a misogynistic little village. I mean, in the early 2020s, Andrew Tate's content was unavoidable due to its heavily male and especially young male audience propping him up across social media and even within real life. But he was deplatformed into oblivion for at least a while, and Sneeko transitioned into being one of Tate's biggest dick riders. I'm sorry, excuse me. That was uncalled for. He became one of Tater Tot's biggest pickle writers, cheerleaders, as well as an influential figure in the manosphere space himself.
What would you do if I couldn't cook?
Get you some cooking classes and call your mother and say you failed.
All that was missing was a female voice of validation. So enter Hannah Pearl Davis, who released stuff like this.
Marriage is supposed to be, you know, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, and for richer or for poorer. It's not supposed to be, you know, when I feel like leaving. And the majority of divorces nowadays, it's just, you know, when the girl just feels like leaving.
We all know what a man and a woman is, okay? Just because you dress like a woman, talk like a woman, act like a woman, it does not make you a woman.
But I will say, I did not find Nick to be racist.
I mean, I think it kind of goes back to like women out earning men have a hard time respecting the men they're with.
If you couldn't tell, this is Pearl's approach in a clamshell. Speak as much as she can on a topic, throw out statistics that make her arguments seem like they hold weight without citing her sources. I mean, she's constantly throwing out stats according to this thing, or I read this thing, and then like never cites them, and then doesn't get fact checked in the moment, and then stick to those points even when faced with a dissenting point of view. Amazingly though, it worked. Today, she has almost 2 million subscribers, and most of them have popped up since the start of 2022, though the biggest burst in popularity for her and this kind of content definitely came when she had the big man himself on her channel on December 25th, 2022.
I wanted to know, do you think we're in a post-marriage society? Because on one hand, we hear that women should wait till they're married to have sex, but at the same time, we also hear from the men that they don't want to get married anymore. So what do we do with that?
There is zero statistical advantage. If you use your mind, if you use your head instead of your heart, and you look at the advantages to getting married, there are absolutely and utterly none. Because this new idea of new age feminism just basically destroys all men in the idea, in the event of her leaving. And it's very common that women leave, right? Let's stop the man versus woman attack, etc., etc. Life's difficult for everybody. We all have different challenges, different things to go through. But if a woman marries a man and it goes wrong, she has emotional heartbreak, fine. But if a man marries a woman and it goes wrong, he has emotional heartbreak. Plus, everything he has ever worked for is ripped out from underneath him, and he has to give that chick money forever. It's named your whole life is based on fucking men. The road you're driving on was paved by a man. The house you're living in was built by a man. The car you're driving was designed by a man. Your whole life depends on men. And the second anything bad were to happen to you, the second you were physically threatened, or times were to get hard, or war were to start, or famine, or riots, the first thing you do is find a big strong man, shit yourself, and throw the feminism out the window. Feminism goes out the fucking window the second that the snow needs shoveling, or there's a fucking broken down car, or the tire needs changing. Then all that crap vanishes. It's garbage.
I didn't get Emery when I covered him before. I still don't. I mean, most of that is, you know, self-preservation. But he seems to make a whole lot of sense to Hannah, who simply let Emery spew this nonsense day in and day out, and probably for a good reason, financially speaking. This interview is Hannah's most popular upload on YouTube, and it's not even close, like currently sitting at over 5.5 million views, or at least, you know, while it was up. Her second most popular, a clip from this interview at just over 2 million. Her third most popular, also a clip. So yeah, shorts just really helped her skyrocket. But her fourth most popular, Big Tech censors Andrew Tate and the Red Pill. Delusional women are the problem. Yes, it's always a woman's fault for a man's actions. I love it. I can't get enough of it. Give it to me, daddy. Yes, and then I'll make it your problem. Ah!
Like me, dislike me, agree with me, disagree with me. Censorship should not be the way moving forward, because I don't even care if someone completely is like a diehard feminist. I respect their right to talk about what they think. And I respect their right to believe what they believe and make videos on what they believe. And I just think that it's so one-sided, where one side of the coin is constantly censored, where the other side of the coin can just say what they want.
Hannah is not very good at this, but because of the sheer volume of content she puts out and the fact that she's one of the few females doing this, she remains successful in what she does. But honestly, is she not just a token being used by the manosphere? There, I said it, I had to say it once. We're gonna move on. It also doesn't hurt that just 4 days after that interview with Andrew Potato Tater Tot Tate, he was arrested in Romania on suspicion of human and forming an organized crime group. There was, again, a vacuum created in the manosphere for content like this, and the sheer novelty of Hannah Pearl Davis being the one to deliver it was too enticing for people to fully turn away from it. Again, if you can grab onto a token and then act like they are a monolith and fully represents every woman and how a woman should be, then it's very easy to just use it and use her. Honestly, yeah, I think that happened. So when she's not leading on bottom G for clout, I mean content, what is Hannah's bag? What hate does she hang on the rock of misogyny wall? Well, Hannah is a lady of many hats, with one being the idea that cheating isn't a big deal. She tweeted this, actually, saying, quote, "It's better to mentally accept that your husband may cheat and you're willing to work through it than mentally believe it is the worst thing ever. Infidelity is one of the leading causes of divorce. These things can and should be worked through." End quote. Based, bro. Based. Honestly, like, I can understand if, like, some of the thought process, right? If you're in a marriage, some people with infidelity, some people can work through it and continue on, and a marriage can flourish even more. Some people, not everyone, and we don't need to force it. Because if that were bad enough, she once also claimed that women like being cheated on, actually.
Particularly, but it's like every time I ask the girls on the show, it'll be like, we'll talk about cheating, right? And they'll bring up their ex that cheated. And my next question is always like, did you stay? And they always say yes.
Yeah, but guys and girls will do shit like that.
And then I ask them, like, when did you guys break up? Like, when did it end? It's always when they stopped cheating. And I'm like, well, why didn't you leave the first time if you didn't like the cheating? Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
Oh yes, cheating is just so hot. I just love being cheated on. Give it to me, daddy. Ah! And then again, I'm the woman, so I'm gonna ruin it. Ah! Sorry, petty. It's seeping out of me this whole time. But you know, honestly, there's nothing more emotionally fulfilling than putting your love and trust into a person, making a commitment to keep it in your pants, only discover that trust has been discarded for entirely selfish reasons. Also strange that for someone who has never been in a substantial relationship, you think you have any right whatsoever to say what flies or doesn't fly in everyone else's relationships. And to be clear, I know you allegedly dated Angry Reactions, Miss Pearl.
Y'all, yes, Angry Reactions and Pearly Girly used to date. Receipts!
Guys, we're supposed to be on a diet, but I really wanted it. I wanted it so bad. I didn't, Nikki. You said you were craving the pink drink.
I was craving it, but I knew I didn't need it. And you made me come.
Pearl's really committed to this cheating message though. On Twitter, she also said, I often hear the arguments that what if your husband cheats on you and gives you an incurable STD? I would say you should stay even more because who will date you with an incurable STD? Oh, holy fucking shittlebits, dude. What the hell? Why are you the way that you are?
Why are you the way that you are?
For those of you who are familiar with me, you all know that I normally approach segments about abuse and DV very seriously, having been a person who has survived some shit. But sometimes a bitch just needs to take the piss out of the pisser and put it in the pot, because this is some whole grain gluten-free bullshit and I am tired. I am tired. So go ahead, put on your grad caps, Petty University, roll the intro. Saying, what if your husband cheats on you and gives you an incurable STD? Who will date you with an incurable STD? It's kind of like saying, since she likes an analogy, that man punched my stomach during a fight. Who is gonna love a girl who's been punched? Oh, only the asshole who punched me will love me. It's almost like saying that women should stay with their abuse. Oh, well. If it isn't the pot calling the pot a pot. Okay, so on one hand, that's not what I was expecting to drop into the graphics right now. But on the other hand, most abused women were actually the abusive ones is a horribly reductive and baseless feat of mental gymnastics. So impressive, I'm surprised it's not listed on your college volleyball stats. This isn't shocking for Hannah. Quote, was he really abusive or did you bring the abuse out of him? It's that's a real tweet that she made and it's far from the only time she's ever had this take. What were you wearing? There is a lot to unwrap with Hannah Pearl Davis standing for red pill content, saying cheating is okay, that women like to be cheated on, or taking contrarian stances on abuse, even going as far as to say that those who cry abuse are the real abusers. The truth is, she's doing two things with what I've outlined so far that can have a very dangerous effect on the world around us. The first is downplaying the very valid reality of survivors everywhere by implying that they in some way deserved what happened to them. This is a common tactic of abusers everywhere and is very much gaslighting. Like, what did you say to make him hit you? What were you wearing to make him SA you? Like, I know he hit you so hard you were hospitalized, but like, weren't you like bitching about wanting to see a doctor for like a general checkup anyways? So like, just be grateful because he just got you there sooner. Sometimes the blame is taken even further by accusing the real victim of being the abuser in a tactic known as Darvo. But what makes Hannah gaslighting us so evil, in, my opinion and others, whether she actually believes it or not, is she doesn't have to take this stance. She doesn't have to. She literally doesn't have to. Doesn't have to. But she does.
Women cry abuse for everything, and we've actually lost the meaning of abuse. Like, if you go to, and I know this because I'm doing a divorce documentary, and so I'm actually interviewing men that are in the process of getting like absolutely wrecked by divorce, and a lot of them have had false allegations put out against them. And a lot of those, basically what the feminists do is they expand the definition of abuse to include things like coercive control, financial abuse, and even physical abuse. A lot of times, like, girls don't talk about how they hit first, and most abusive situations are mutually abusive, meaning they're both hitting each other. And so a lot of times what girls will do is they'll say, oh, I'm being abused, but they don't talk about how she hit him first. Like, I had a girl on the show say I was physically abused, and I used to just believe women. Like, I would always just be like, oh, I'm so sorry. But then you start asking questions, and it baffles me how women like turn the situation of them like being abused when they aren't.
Now, to my knowledge, Hannah has never publicly disclosed whether she herself is a survivor of anything, and she doesn't need to have been to be an expert on the topic. But what she's maintaining here is not only not reflected in reality, it's dangerous for the credibility of survivors everywhere. Like, using SA, like a very extreme form of DV, as a barometer, we can see that false reports only account for 10% at most and 2% at the smallest known amount, according to the National SUL Violence Resource Center. Now, of course, stats can be skewed based on underreporting, meaning there could be a lot higher percentages going on. But when opening the corral to DV at large, which is what Hannah is talking about, we see that the most generous number is 8% result in false allegations, with 17 of those surveyed claiming they know someone who was falsely accused. Now, why did I include that second number? Because everybody thinks allegations like these are false before they are inclined to agree that abuse itself is the problem. problem. It's easier to assume everybody is operating from a place of bad faith than it is to assume that somebody can be abusive. And Hannah is exploiting that idea to the max for profit and also for the benefit of the manosphere to use her to push this, whether she realizes that I think she's becoming their token or not. Even aside from the more blatantly evil things that she preaches, she also appears to be a hypocrite, claiming that women are only hot in their 20s. Well, actually, she said younger than that, but we'll get to that later. And that she's also said women over 30 can't be sexy, virgins are impure because women should only sleep with their husbands. And she takes a lot of time to dump on overweight women too, which I gotta say, little sidebar, this whole idea that like women must be just total pure virgins before getting married. And then also Hannah is very much like, you need to get married and you need to get married as young as possible is what she said. And she believes the family dynamic and all of these things, go, 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 women go get married. Now let me preface, we're talking about heterosexual relationships because she doesn't want to identify LGBTQIA+ as being like valid, which is, nothing's gonna piss me off more. But if women are supposed to be virgins before they marry a man, doesn't that mean that these like men, these players, these high value men, which like the manosphere like talks about like sleeping, you know, we're gonna have a different woman every night. Doesn't that mean that the men should stop sleeping with the women so that they can have virgin wives? It's right there. It's right there. I don't ever hear anyone like talk about that, but isn't that pretty obvious? If you want the women to be virgins, then don't the men kind of gotta be virgins too? Because if they virginize the women, then I'm just saying. Now listen, what we're not gonna do is the very misogynistic thing that so many people do to women, where they dump on a woman for her appearance, her lifestyle choices, her age, any of that, because, you know, God forbid women look some kind of way or age. How dare they stay alive?
I was a sophomore in college when I lost my virginity, so I was like halfway through college. It's late.
You know it's not about you. I'm gonna drop something. It's at the timing.
Well, no. It was because he literally like went on to marry the next girl, so something. But it's funny because the girl was older than me, so by the manosphere's perspective, like I would have won.
I'm not even gonna comment on the fact that she herself remains an unmarried non-virgin coming up on 30 because that's already happened.
The sanctity of marriage also rely on the woman being a virgin, so you wouldn't be able to get married.
What do you mean?
Well, you've spoken quite openly about how you're not a virgin, and so if you want to preserve that sanctity of marriage, then I just think that you're upholding standards that you don't actually live by.
And that's a fair complaint. I wish I was, but we can't go back. I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, but I just don't think it's fair that you get to be here and you get to be paid for your views, and you're telling other women that they shouldn't be allowed.
All I'm going to do is point out that even if Hannah doesn't know the definition of grifter, she blatantly is one, allegedly. And if she's not, hey Hannah, do you perchance have an Amazon wish list? I would like to make a contribution to the list. Would that be okay? Here's a good read, 4.4 stars. Bet you'd love it. It was even written by a man, which is also funny because she thinks women shouldn't be educated. So here I am, the Dean of Petty University, Professor Petty, saying, class dismissed. Now, settle up, friends, because perhaps one of my favorite interviews in this saga involves two people who make me want to rocket into space, Pearl and Piers. And lucky for us, there's more than one interview. Oh, goody.
Marriage was about duty. And this is the problem we have with women. Like men tend to be better people than us. Yeah, they really do. They tend to, they tend to do the right thing.
Beedly-dee! Okay, let's get on with it. First up, Pearl believes that divorce should be banned.
You want divorce to be made illegal?
Yes.
Why?
Yes, because I don't think what we have today is really marriage. What is marriage? It's for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. That's what marriage is supposed to be. But feminists have ruined marriage for the people that actually believe in marriage.
How?
When there's a 50% divorce rate, and the average marriage
why is that all
8
down to
years.
the women, though?
I didn't say that it was all down to the women.
So why feminists women?
You asked why I want divorce to be banned.
Why am I doing this to myself? Listen, first of all, I have to ask a question that I never hear asked. Why in the someone so devoted to the concept of marriage solely based on how it was first created? Listen, I don't have a problem with people who want to get married and that is like the healthy decision for them. I don't have a problem with that. That's not what this is about. But have we learned nothing from Bailey Sarian's Dark History episode on the origins of marriage? Do you not know that marriage was originally a construct that was created by deeply flawed humans an Earth time ago, where lifespans were like that long, generally as a means to trade women as property to be owned and fully controlled and not have a voice or a platform? Pearl, you would be thrown to the wherever the stones, the wood. I don't know where they threw people way back in those days, but Pearl would be there, okay? She wouldn't have a platform, she wouldn't be able to speak.
So your marriage would be set up by your father, who wanted to marry his daughter off into a family of wealth and status because it would make the family look good, and that's honestly what it was all about. Like, your father would go around town like, oh, my daughter's gonna marry into the olive oil family, and just humble brags everywhere, and it would raise his status.
Promise, it's okay. It is okay for marriage to evolve as society evolves. And again, Pearl, if you existed during that time in society, they would take that microphone away and chain you to a rock for even speaking because, you know, traditional gender roles.
So I'm saying, you know, the people that believe in divorce, go be in long-term relationships. Leave marriage for the people that actually believe in, for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
Okay, another question, and pardon me if I'm stating the obvious, but who in the actual whole grain first rate believes in divorce? I've never heard anyone say, you know what? I believe in divorce. That's why I'm getting married, so I can become miserable and get divorced. That's what I want for my life. Genuine question, because every wedding I've ever been to and every post I've ever seen, when people get married, most often it's because they believe in marriage, not in divorce.
When you find the man you want to get married to, are you saying you will be with that man whatever happens the rest of your life?
Yes, for the vows that we're supposed to live by.
How do you know you can keep them?
I mean, I think it's a choice. And that's the thing, like, women are so willing to leave marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness. The most important thing is the children. And the problem is we have a modern society where it's me, my feelings, leave when I feel like it, instead of doing what's best for the kids.
First of all, Pearl makes the fatal debate flaw here of assuming that all marriages result in having children, which is factually incorrect. But before that, Piers asks her a simple question. How do you know you can keep the vows? And Pearl says,
how do you know you can keep them?
I mean, I think it's a choice. And that's the thing, like, women are so willing to leave marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness.
And there it is. Pearl says sticking to your vows is a choice and happiness doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna mention the obvious, DV, it's right there. I mean, yeah. According to the National Library of Medicine, quote, according to the CDC, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience physical V by their intimate partner at some point during their lifetimes. About 1 in 3 women and nearly 1 in 6 men experience some form of SUL V during their lifetimes. Now, again, as someone who has survived DV at the hands of both an intimate partner and a family member, the very suggestion to me that divorce should be illegal when a minimum 25% experience DV in their relationships is reprehensible. And to double down on it when statistics are brought to your attention is, in my opinion, verging on unforgivable.
I think we should ban divorce too. Yeah, I think that should be banned. Yes.
Okay, well, that's a little bit silly. You have to acknowledge that, right?
No.
So banning divorce means that when you decide to get married, you are not allowed by the government to leave your significant other in any situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just think that if you want to leave, you just shouldn't get married. So that's just my opinion.
Right, but like in the real world, that kind of simplistic.
And you know, there's like exceptions to this, but I would just say in general, for most cases, you know, we could talk about exceptions, but like the rule.
Well, the exceptions are the important part, because I've heard you say that a lot when you're talking about things. You say, oh, you want to talk about exceptions, but the exceptions is the important part, because those are the people that are going to be affected. I mean, 25% maybe or more, because if you're saying you're not allowed to get divorced, so we're talking about like, what if the relationship is physically abusive?
Yeah, I think if it's physically, this is the problem though. All right. If it's one-sided physically abusive, okay, fine, divorce. We can allow divorce for those exceptions. But like, I've even talked to people that work at like abuse centers, and they say that the majority of abuse is mutual. So it's not just one side's hitting the other. It's like mutual. So
surely that's not every time.
I think you have to press charges in criminal court, not family court.
So only if your significant other is tried criminally are you allowed to leave the relationship. Yes. Tried and found guilty criminally.
Yes.
And again, these are real people with real lives and real violence that often results in life or death situations. And I know because that's how it was for me, life or death. I just happened to be lucky enough to have survived.
Base your relationship off your parents' relationship. And if you watch your mum or your dad constantly belittle themselves and constantly let themselves get walked over, you're going to let yourself get walked over because
you know what I would say?
And especially if you're their gender, because it's more likely to be the woman, you're going to think, oh, it's okay if my man treats me like crap.
What do you mean it's more likely to be the woman?
Because like domestic violence, you're more likely to be domestically abused.
It's actually most domestic violence is two-sided. Like a lot of girls claim domestic violence, but they hit first.
Okay.
And you're actually more likely to be in a domestic violence where if it's one-sided abuse, like women are more likely to be more likely to hit men one-sided than men are to hit women.
False. Quote, over 1 in 3 million, 35.6%, and 1 in 4 men, 28.5% in the US have experienced R-word, physical V, and or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Now, y'all know I am a vocal person when it comes to the fact that male victims exist and should be taken just as seriously as any other gendered or non-binary victim, but we have to be accurate. Here's something from the UK. Quote, whilst both men and women may experience incidents of interpersonal V and abuse, women are considerably more likely to experience repeated and severe forms of abuse, including SV. They are also more likely to have experienced sustained physical, psychological, or emotional abuse, or V, which results in injury or death. And those are just reported stats, which means the percentages are likely much, much higher. I don't know if Pearl has ever experienced DV. I certainly hope not. But when you feed the world with the absolute catastrophic take that divorce should be illegal, meaning someone who files for divorce should be a criminal unless they take their spouse to court on DV charges and somehow win, is not only disgusting, it's unbelievably dangerous. Why? Because we know that the court system is notoriously difficult for taking actual action against DV because most victims aren't able to tell their abuser, hey, could you pause from harming me for a minute so like I could turn on a camera and film this, you know, for the court so I have like evidence that they're gonna listen to me. And because often if a victim even tries to go to authorities, where they often are turned away, and yes, actually it is incredibly difficult to get a restraining order, Pearl, victims are often at greater chances of being further harmed or worse if their partner finds out that they tried to report it. Again, I am speaking from experience. I am not a fringe case here. This happens a lot, but it doesn't seem like Pearl cares about any of that. Okay, let's get on with it.
What is traditionalism?
I don't know what you think traditionalism is.
I would say a modern mentality is me before the family. I would say traditionalism is the family before me, especially in women.
You're onto something.
And so what it's interesting you said 60-year-olds because, you know, I've interviewed 600, 700 people roughly in the past year and a half. I've done hundreds of shows interviewing people about relationships. And what I find is the 60-year-olds tend to, a lot of those women led their daughters astray. You know, there's a reason we're in this mess, right? A lot of those women had the wrong mentality when it came to marriage and had exactly the mentality that you're talking about.
Which is the one to prioritize balancing one's own sense of identity with compromise in a relationship with someone else.
It's myself before the marriage.
But that's, again,
and it's really unfortunate because I would say the women of our generation really are suffering because of the advice of the women of the past.
Let me first say, I don't have a problem with trad wives or people who want the traditional family of marriage and kids where one spouse, you know, works and the other one works raising the children and caring for the home. And if you can afford to do that financially, then you're in a great position. So, you know, like, please don't be a bitch about it and force your partner into something like that, or be phobic and insist that the LGBTQIA+ community is a lie and can't marry and have kids as well. And please don't force, you know, personal spiritual beliefs on people who disagree. It's okay to disagree about spiritual beliefs, but sure, have a family, good for you. We want families and we want them to be healthy, and we want children to grow up looking at healthy examples of parents, not forced imprisoned basically relationships where you would be a criminal if you leave it, and so the kid's got to witness one spouse hitting the other or whatever it is. But in regards to Pearl's criticism of people not being traditional, it's because she doesn't like other people's interpretation of what traditional even means. And when you force your ideals, guess what? Pushback. And when it comes to women, I think that's what's happening, is a lot of pushback to centuries of oppression. This is nothing new. And what Pearl is not acknowledging, like ever, is the very real truth that in this country and others, historically, women were forced into a certain role, and yes, men were forced into roles as well. But along with those roles, often against women who were labeled, you know, the weaker sex, came a lot of coercive control, DV, SA, exploitation, manipulation, the list goes on. It's the foundation on which things like the glass ceiling, gender discrimination, and pregnancy discrimination in the workplace were built on and are still very much alive in modern day. Here, Pearl, here's a source. According to worldbank.org, quote, in 20% of economies worldwide, women have no legal remedies in such cases and can be fired just for being pregnant. According to the latest Women, Business, and the Law 2021 report, 38 of 190 economies do not prohibit dismissal of pregnant workers in their laws, meaning it's legal to dismiss pregnant women. And according to the Equality and Human Rights Commission, quote, around 1 in 9 mothers, 11%, reported that they were either dismissed, made compulsorily redundant where others in their workplace were not, or treated so poorly they felt they had to leave their job. If scaled up to the general population, this could mean as many as 54,000 mothers a year. So we want to talk about traditional family values. Why don't we talk about respecting the mothers to birth the children, to raise the future generations? Just a thought. So as the perfect storm of things like the rise of social media and access to education, access to, hearing global experiences and opinions, access to better healthcare, contraceptives, coupled with the rise of the red pill misogynist, the increased anti-woman vitriol, the downward sliding economy, where not even 2-income households are enough to afford housing and children, and the rise of the Andrew Tate mindset that pushes women to stay in their ancient roles, even though all of the rest of society is evolving, you're going to get pushback from modern society for the sake of survival, as more and more girls and women learn and realize that they too are human beings and they too have a say in the direction of their lives, how they want to contribute to their families and society, and exactly how much abuse they're no longer willing to take. So in my opinion, to ignore all of these elements that are all happening at the same time is irresponsible and pill pushing to people who already took their vitamins and evolved past the ancient times, allegedly. When you have things like Roe v. Wade overturned, the increase of SA within the household during the pandemic, when you have things like people debating if a woman should have bodily autonomy and be able to choose her own career path, or if she wants to have children at all. I mean, when you have elected officials in high positions who've openly harmed women, when you have people trying to dictate what an entire classification of people should be allowed to do or say, the only response you should expect is pushback, and often rightfully so. I told you today I am pissed and petty, and I'm just not gonna be as polite about some things anymore. What y'all saw in all of the videos up to this one was me being polite. Yeah, that was me being polite. Things might change, probably because of some shit that has happened in my life recently. We have entered the era of I don't have to take your shit anymore, and it's hitting at the time when you can post about it online and encourage others who thought they had no other choice to finally start choosing something else. That is supposed to be something that we celebrate, obviously when it's done responsibly. Diversity of thought that empowers classically underserved, oppressed, abused communities. And yes, that diversity of thought also includes people like Pearl, whether we like it or not, right? Free speech. I have no problem with women who choose the traditional wife role as long as they're happy and it's not a result of them feeling trapped into it or being coerced. But here's the thing. If a woman is going to live in the traditional role of diligently serving her man, that man better play the same role where he diligently serves and respects his woman. That's the only way that works, and people don't get desecrated. It's really that simple. Now, I've waited a while to dive into this particular point, but there's a term for Hannah that gets thrown around a lot, a pick-me. We all kind of know what pick-me is: somebody who acts against their own interests, someone who by definition is a part of some kind of marginalized group but really wants to gain favor with the popular crowd. In Hannah's case, it's shitting on women to gain favor with men, and ironically, the men don't care about her like that. Again, the token thing is like really a theme that I think is going on here. And like the reality is we all kind of crave validation of some kind, right? Like if we're human beings, most everyone wants to be appreciated in some capacity. If we're here online and we post to social media and we create content, we all want some kind of appreciation. There's nothing wrong with that. It is human nature to want to be liked, loved, desired, appreciated. Any sort of attention can activate pleasure centers for us that make us want to keep doing whatever unleashed those endorphins. Where it gets particularly sad for Hannah is that everything she does is so transparently for a specific sort of validation she isn't receiving otherwise, at least from, you know, our perspective. In her own words, she has admitted that the lonelier she gets and the more self-loathing she becomes, the more the internet wants from her and the more attention she gets. Yeah, sad. If her points of view weren't so insultingly dangerous and damaging to humans regardless of gender, I'd feel exceptionally bad for her, because everything I've described up to this point can be read as some sort of cry for attention.
What do you mean?
Don't leave. Women leave 70% of the time. If they're college educated, they leave 90% of the time.
Correct.
Women ruin relationships and they ruin families. Women typically do it.
Actually,
and so if a guy asks the majority of men, their first choice is not a baby mother.
Mama.
Just like our first choice typically is not a short, broke guy.
That's right.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Now, remember the perspective, that question that I asked earlier, is there the possibility that Hannah Pearl is somehow a bit of a victim, so to speak, of the way the manosphere very intentionally targets vulnerable and impressionable people? And if so, does that change how we view a classic pick-me? Or does it change nothing and she should be held to her words full stop? Or can both of those things be true? I don't really have the full answers to that. It's just something that I think about a lot. But the thing is, I do feel like either Pearl is a brilliant grifter, or she stumbled upon this posturing and just ran with it, or something has severely gone wrong with Hannah beyond simply being a pick-me, because somewhere along the way, her interest became a lot darker, a lot more deranged, and a lot more dangerous beyond simple rhetoric, in my opinion, allegedly. There are a few results of this. The easiest one to talk about is Hannah's continued insistence at talking about the sexualization of minors. Now, allegedly, this tweet is about the Prophet Muhammad. Quote, "Others are saying it is okay he screwed a 9-year-old because it was a different time." Okay, I could get behind maybe 13 or 12, but 9? Over 1,000 likes on a joke about a child getting SA'd, and this isn't even the only time. Now, in some alternate universe, if I tried to like dig into that tweet, could she have been saying that because lifespans were like way shorter at a time and girls were being married off at that age? This isn't the only time. In July 2023, she posted, then deleted, and I quote, "16-year-old chicks are hotter than 26-year-old chicks." So yeah, when people got mad, she posted and deleted. People tend to get uglier the older they get in general. And when Insider asked her, "Hey, WTF, Hannah?" she said, and I quote, "Most people are better looking when they're younger. I looked better at 16. By numbers alone, most people are overweight or obese. By 26, again, by numbers alone." I don't know what the hell. Can you cite the source? What are you talking about? Also, 16, I looked at images of myself when I was 16, child. I looked like a freaking toddler child. And to think that that was the age that men were preying on me. A little sidebar, but Insider immediately follows this up by pointing out that no, most people aren't overweight or quote obese. Listen, if you want to see the type of people Hannah has attracted with her content, here are a few of the comments people have left on this claim online. They're quite disturbing and I won't be reading them, but Hannah is obsessed with youth, like youth being tied to beauty, and it's quite sick in my opinion. Honestly, y'all, I will never ever understand people who on women's age and adults women's age, especially women who on women's age. Like, it's one thing if you're like 12 and like someone just hasn't, you know, made some sense to you about this stuff, but like women who disparage women because of their age, like every time I see this, and it like usually happens to like celebrities and public figures and all that kind of thing, I'm just like, are you really that insecure that a fellow adult woman over like whatever age you've decided means something in her adult life, like Hannah is 30, are you really that insecure that that threatens you? That the woman is still alive? Like, do you legitimately not want to get older? Like, do you know what happens if you don't get older? You die. Like dead. Like you have submitted your resignation from this earth and you cease to exist. Like, if Pearl is lucky, one day she will be the age of the women she's on. Then what, Pearl? Like, because you spent so much time contributing to the misogyny that condemns women about getting older, which it is misogynistic to do that, while praising men for getting older, you know, the silver fox, fine wine, you've perpetuated this bullshit that you will one day have to deal with, because everyone younger who listens to that nonsense is going to shit on you when you're older too. So congratulations. Way to perpetuate this nonsense that apparently women will never get away from if this continues. But putting the misogyny aside, it goes beyond all of this, you know, buckery, because Hannah made herself a controversial new friend. A friend who kickstarted the very slow, painful process of her fall from grace. If you don't know who Nic Fuentes is, the introduction to his Wikipedia page, which I rarely cite that, but let's do this, sums it up quite actually a lot better than I was going to. Quote, Nicholas Joseph Fuentes is an American far-right political commentator and live streamer who is known for his white supremacist, misogynistic, homophobic, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic views. A former YouTuber, his channel was permanently terminated in February 2020 for violating YouTube's hate speech policy. Fuentes has promoted conspiracy theories against Jewish people and has denied the Holocaust. Fuentes identifies as a member of the incel movement, as a supporter of authoritarian government, and as a Catholic integralist and Christian nationalist. So that is a very heavy list. And there are obviously a lot of things on there that I can't cover for a number of reasons, unfortunately. And so I will have to leave some of that out. But I'd also like to throw it out there that she has referred to women as nothing more than baby machines on Tweedledee and Tweedledum, I mean Fresh and Fit, and has been banned from YouTube, Twitch, Reddit, DLive, Airbnb, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, PayPal, Venmo, Patreon, Shopify, Stripe, Streamlabs, and Coinbase. You know you done f***ed up when not even Airbnb will put up with your dickery-doodah. He's also claimed that his bank account has been frozen and that he had been placed on a federal no-fly list, despite the expectation that he might be some kind of fringe rage bait religious figure. Nic Fuentes has become notorious enough, even in conservative spaces, that he has leveraged himself into dinners with former President Trump and Kanye West. He even had his own page on the Anti-Defamation League's website outlining just a few of his questionable actions. And in case you think this could all be a thing of the past, doo-doo daddy Elon actually gave him his Twitter account back on January 25th, 2023. But according to Hannah Gaius, a senior researcher at the Southern Poverty Law Center, his first tweets back immediately proceeded to praise the Unabomber, I don't even know if I could say that word here, and he immediately went mask off, saying some deliberately racist things that I'm not going to repeat here. Shockingly, Twitter banned him again the next day. So why am I talking about Nic Fuentes, and what does he have to do with Hannah? Well, that's easy. They're friends.
What up, guys? Welcome to the Just Pearly Things YouTube channel. Today, I have two special guests on the channel. Welcome, Nic Fuentes.
Hi, what's going on?
And welcome, Gabby.
Hi, what's going on?
Today, we are going to be reacting to my favorite content creator in the whole wide world, Candace Owens.
Now, I started writing the script again like last year. This, in the grand scheme of things, is recent history and a hell of a way for Hannah to branch out beyond her normal red pill content. For clarity, Nic Fuentes' brand of red pilling isn't even the same as Hannah's. His, in this interview, is more like this.
What do you think of Candace Owens?
I like her. I think she's pretty too. And I think she's pretty based.
Question?
Yeah, I thought that was.
I thought that was she's married.
Do you think it was wrong for Candace to race mix?
Yeah, I think it's wrong to race mix.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So you don't agree with race mixing, but do you find black women attractive?
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, I've said that before.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is especially interesting because Gabby has a black boyfriend, you know. So it's like, you think that's wrong?
I do.
Yeah, she should break up with him?
I do think that, yeah. I prefer that she wasn't doing that.
Don't you said...
Oh, does it make you uncomfortable, Nick?
No. No, but it's wrong.
Why?
Why is it wrong?
She should find a nice Catholic Italian
But
man.
I thought she's tainted now.
I'm tainted. I have tattoos.
Well, that's, yeah, I mean, she is, so it's going to be a hard time for her, but
Yeah.
she's got to live with that.
Oh, okay.
I'm living with...
Nick, I'm gonna be honest, you're not even worth my time, but Hannah, Pearl, and Davis, what we doing, girl? I was rooting for you.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
Okay, I wasn't, but I think Jen from Fundy Fridays put it best when she calls Hannah the perfect example of someone going down the red pill to alt-right pipeline.
Secondary theme of today's episode is the alt-right pipeline, because Pearl is just the perfect poster child for how that happens. How you go from like seemingly normal person and she starts interacting with manosphere content, red pill content, black pill content, and that just forms the perfect union, right? Because she's got this low self-esteem and she's being radicalized through manosphere content. Most people, men and women, are very kind and they don't judge people this harshly and they don't care this much about appearance or your stat. Am I alpha or beta or am I a simp? Like, regular people don't care about any of this stuff. She's like worked herself up into this like arena and it's just not based in reality, and it's really sad because like she's putting herself through so much pain because she thinks that that's the truth, or like she thinks that if she hurts herself or insults herself then we can't do it. You know, she wants to do it first.
It's radicalization through and through, and Hannah is the textbook example of that, at least by appearances. And again, trying to play devil's advocate and dig deeper into another potential perspective. If Hannah is living in this pick-me mindset, craving someone to accept her, and if she fell into the targeting trap of the toxic side of the manosphere, then is it possible that Hannah is the type of person who is simply very impressionable and like pliable and just sort of bends and molds to whatever ideas the loudest person in the room has? I know a lot of people like that. You know, people who are, you know, more than just gullible and naive and sort of psychologically cling to whatever narrative is right in their face in that moment and change, you know, who they are to fit that narrative until something else shapes them into something else. Does that describe Hannah? And if so, should she have a platform of this magnitude? And should she be given a little more consideration? You know what I mean? Like, it would suck if that's, you know, she's just vulnerable. A UK organization called ACT, an acronym for Action Counters, a T word that I can't say, has a really helpful checklist on the stage of radicalization and what can cause it. So what can cause it? A personal crisis like losing a job, not getting a job. It can be triggered by an outside event like an attack in this country or in another country. Those are reasons people can be led down the road of radicalization, but they can also be radicalized simply through, quote, the feeling of being left behind, alienated, or apart from everyone else. This kind of othering, this kind of, you know, lack of self-esteem and social isolation, Hannah has admitted to these things through and through. Like I showed, you know, the clip earlier where she admitted that this is all about her self-esteem. One can reasonably assume that any positive attention emboldens her. And when you get someone like Nic Fuentes giving you that attention, well, you see the potential radicalization of Hannah Pearl Davis in action. allegedly.
Because it's like if I go to a problem and tell a stranger, they're not going to have all the background.
Right.
Where it's like your family has known you. They've known you for years, hopefully, right? But a lot of people aren't close with their families anymore.
Unfortunately for Hannah, I think she severely overestimated her audience's willingness to put up with racist Nic Fuentes, especially when you consider that a pretty sizable portion of the manosphere consists of black men.
Embellishment of slavery is where you display the true level of your insensitivity and lack of understanding about the culture that you have immersed yourself in, whether you like it or not. Pearl, at the end of the day, you're f***ed up.
People are questioning whether or not JustPearlyThings is racist. Many people in the manosphere have denounced her, and we're gonna take a look at it and see if it's actually justified. We'll let you be the judge. She featured a very peculiar guest. No Jumper did the same thing, but yes, they both featured Nic Fuentes. And when you do that with a very controversial guest, people expect you to give pushback, especially if your audience is normally the target of their talks.
Do you believe that black folks are extremely forgiving to white people?
I don't know.
So every black man that came before you today, you don't think in the back of your mind, geez, I can pretty much say anything to black people about black people, and as long as I come here and say I'm sorry, they'll forgive me. Do you believe that at all? Or would you even admit to that?
That certainly was not a thought.
You just see the switch up that she's done over the last 2 years, and it's been fascinating to see the kind of title she had before, content she's making, to what she's making now. I just don't buy it. I never did. At the end of the day, do I think she's some kind of race supremacist? No, I don't. I think she's just somebody who wants to make money, and her capitalistic mindset made her realize that black men will support a woman who echoes what they think, especially if she doesn't look like them. And so they threw money at her. Truth is, she's a goofy broad who found a way into the community and was able to make a lot of money off you guys. And she will continue, because a lot of dudes are more concerned with getting back at women or showing them up than they are with actually getting to the truth of any situation. Because if you look at her, she's a giant flaming hypocrite. The thing that she is the exact thing that she preaches against. She ain't got no husband. She's a career-driven woman who's very, very argumentative and isn't submissive in any type of way. How's Sheila wanting to tell everyone how to live and what they should be, but she's not even an example of the thing that she talks about? Y'all never found that shit kind of weird?
You get the point. Like, every black man on YouTube who is proud of being a black man and is therefore disgusted by a man who hates them by default for being black was pissed off at Hannah. And why shouldn't they be? Hannah was supposed to be on their side, right? She very much bonded herself to the black manosphere on top of everything else. And we're not even gonna get into just the obvious times that Hannah like used that in order to try to just attack black women. I don't have the energy for that, but this is where we get into the bizarro mirror image of intersectionality, right? Usually we talk about intersectionality as it relates to feminism, humanism, and so on. Learning to process that a white woman's experience is not the same as a black woman's experience, or a trans woman's experience, or a black trans woman's experience, and so on. But intersectionality applies even through an exclusionary lens too, because here we talk about this idea of how Hannah, at best, will always be an ally to the manosphere, but never really a part of it. By platforming someone like Nic Fuentes, however, she exposed herself quickly as not only not an ally, but an active enemy to those communities. Now, you might be surprised to learn that with the massive influx of black men coming after her, Hannah apologized? Kinda?
I think it's been by, we call the show trigonometry.
Yeah.
But even by our standards, this has been pretty triggering for a lot of people. However, there's something even more triggering that I do have to ask you about, because in between the time that we booked you to come on the show and you actually coming on the show, you had a guy called Nic Fuentes.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah. And then you did an interview with this guy. Like, this is not a guy we would ever have on because he's a racist, Holocaust-denying piece of shit as far as I'm concerned.
I'll get to the clip in a sec, but I really wanted to highlight that look in Hannah's eyes when she realizes that she fucked up so bad that she doesn't even have the people running a show titled Trigonometry on her side. It's $1 million stare, baby.
But you had him on, and then you took that interview down and apologized. So what happened with that whole thing?
Oh, I can't talk too much. There's like legal things going on.
There's legal things going on?
Yeah, there's not with Nick, but just, but there's, I have a video coming out about that whole thing. So you guys have to wait for the video. Well, but I will say, I did not find Nick to be racist. My staff actually did not find him to be racist.
Wait, he was talking to an Italian girl next to you. and saying that she shouldn't have a black boyfriend or something along those lines.
He doesn't believe in. See, I don't really want to go into like the race mixing stuff too much.
No, but you just said he wasn't being racist, and I watched him be racist on your show.
Well, I mean, to me, he says the same things that like there's a lot of people that think like that. When
But it doesn't make it less racist just because other people think it.
You could say that, but to me, it's like, how do I put it? His argument is more about culture. It's easier if you date someone in your culture. You'd have to watch the full thing, but was like being a bit like combative to him. And to me, he was just like kidding. But yeah,
He did say, I am a bit racist, even in that. And in fact, in your apology, you said that he said racist things.
Well, there's a video coming out about all of that.
Now, you might be noticing that I said Hannah apologized for having Nic on. She did. There was a video. Here's a clip.
People say that stuff about me. They say I'm sexist. They say I'm a misogynist. And, you know, I really just like to give people the benefit of the doubt when I interview them. I don't go into interviews trying to interrogate someone. I just more try to listen and see where they're coming from. In hindsight, that wasn't smart. And in hindsight, I should have had someone, you know, maybe Sarah Garvey, maybe another content creator that could have pushed back more and really was more educated on the topics that he was talking about than I was, because I certainly was not an expert in any of the stuff that he was talking about.
That video has since been deleted, and it all seemed to start with the massive heel turn she started on this podcast, and also her follow-up recanting her whole apology. Sorry, Nic was racist. Wait, he wasn't racist, but he said he was racist. Yes, but he was joking about being racist. Yeah, the other girl was the problem, because it's always the women are the problem.
Especially interesting because Gabby has a black boyfriend, you know? So it's like, you think that's wrong?
I do.
Yeah, she should break up with him?
I do think that, yeah. I prefer that she wasn't doing that.
Don't you said...
Oh, does it make you uncomfortable, Nic?
No. No, but it's wrong.
But I thought she's tainted now.
I'm tainted. I have tattoos.
Well, I mean, she is, so it's going to be a hard time for her, but she's got to live with that.
I have no idea why Pearl thinks this is/isn't racist, and it gets a lot worse as Hannah decides to double, triple, quadruple down with a video in response to the Black Manosphere creators called Unapologetic, my response to weaponized empathy, woke culture, free speech, and selective outrage.
And all of these reaction channels are gonna come in and say, oh, Pearl shouldn't do that in front of a white supremacist. That's so disrespectful. Well, if my employees were disrespected, that's their job to talk to me.
And I held her accountable, and I told her she has to address the things she said, and I said to her that it wasn't a good idea having Nic Fuentes on there, and I said that he is a racist, bruv.
Honestly, guys, just because someone takes words and strings them together in a sentence and puts it on a platform doesn't mean they're saying anything. I could go on for days and days about Hannah Pearl Davis burning her bridges with the Black Manosphere, because even as recently as November 2023, ABBA and Preach were making content about Hannah. It's all kind of circular. Hannah platformed Nic Fuentes, got dragged by Black creators for it, decided she was being unjustly canceled and pushed back, and now she's a certified lolcow for that community, so it may never end. We're just gonna jump right into this one because somehow Colleen Ballinger is like, after the ukulele situation, Hannah Pearl Davis released a song, I guess she was inspired, that wondered why she can't talk about Jews without getting kicked off of YouTube.
Why can't we talk about them without getting kicked off of YouTube? Now, I'm not saying he was a good guy, but I kinda wanna know why. Now there's all these conspiracy theories, and the more they talk, I think maybe they're right. But I can't even listen to the convo. I can't even have the conversation without getting canceled by the left and the right.
It's July 2023, and Hannah needs her dose of negative attention and maybe a laugh cry emoji text from her bestie Nic Fuentes. I really don't understand why Hannah decided that this would be the move to get into bed with Nic Fuentes and other white supremacists, especially considering her past working relationships with Black men and the fact that she says she likes to date Black men. Hannah gives the appearance of someone who is being radicalized or someone who's just like, hey, I'm just gonna rage bait and make money. And this song is indicative of the lengths someone like Hannah will go to truly be accepted by some community somewhere. Perhaps the most classic part of this isn't just the fact that Pearl deleted her own video a day later. It's that she went on Piers Morgan right after, thinking somehow that would be a good idea.
Then I wake up the other day and I see this thing that's trending involving you doing this song. And I couldn't really believe what I was watching. I didn't know, why did you find it funny?
Huh?
Did you find it funny? I mean, you know the backlash to it. I mean, you deleted it, you obviously thought you shouldn't have posted it.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do that? Genuine question.
I mean, the point was more about cancel culture and people getting kicked off of social media if you finish the song. I said, but we can't even have the conversation.
What is the conversation you want to have?
Without being canceled by the left and the right.
But what
the point is any speech.
No,
I think
it's not any speech. It's not any speech. What is the conversation about Hitler and conspiracy theories and the Holocaust that you want to have?
I don't want to have any conversation. My lane is feminism. That's what
you're singing about Adolf.
Can I finish?
Yeah, but you are singing about Hitler.
Okay.
So you do want to have that conversation.
I want anybody that wants to speak on social media to be able to speak about what they want to talk
Including
about
Holocaust
without
denial.
getting banned. Whatever they want to talk about.
Including Holocaust denial.
If they want to talk about that, as long as they're not inciting violence, I think people.
Of course they're inciting violence. They're inciting a hatred of
I think that
Jewish people.
Social media is the new town square.
And in a Twitter spat that will remain one of my favorites of the year, Pearl and Piers battled it out. And I'm not even gonna read these because honestly, after I wrote my whole script, I then went after and watched Jay Aubrey's video as I was doing my makeup to film this. And like, I just immediately wanted to say that like, I'm just gonna play a clip from his video because his dramatic reading is too perfect not for me to not include.
Why does Piers Morgan believe in censorship with a platform called Uncensored? Hashtag when uncensored becomes censored. You did an incredibly stupid thing with your now deleted Hitler video. As I said to you after our interview, own your mistake and apologize for the offense you caused Jews. Or ignore my advice and be condemned as Kanye was for pulling similar anti-Semitic stunts. Your choice. Apologize to the woke mob or be deplatformed like Kanye? Is that a threat? She said to thunderous applause. I'm still waiting on my questions about freedom of speech. Piers Morgan team also told me I couldn't go on the show to discuss other topics if I didn't do this general discussion around free speech. Wops. I wish I could emphasize into words just how many times they told me and my assistant they were trying to build a relationship and not an attack. Piers is on your side. He believes in freedom of speech. Is that fair, honest journalism? They set up their guests and lied to me about who I was debating till right before and falsely defamed me as anti-Semitic. I'm not anti-Semitic, but the word but should never come after a statement like that.
Now, I've mentioned quite often that I believe Hannah is a grifter, and that's not exactly a hot take. Many have and will call her the female Andrew Tate, and that's pretty accurate. But I want to propose something else. Hannah Pearl Davis is the female Ollie London. For those who don't know, Ollie London went viral many times over for being a white man who received hundreds of thousands of dollars of plastic surgery to look like Jimin from the K-pop group BTS, a Korean man. It was a bizarre publicity stunt, allegedly, that Ollie took in wildly dramatic directions many times over. First, he claimed, like Rachel Dolezal before him, then he claimed he was now a trans woman and began receiving more surgery to look like Rosé from the girl group Blackpink. But then Ollie, a public atheist, suddenly took a sharp turn into Catholicism and announced that he was detransitioning in October 2022. By August 2023, he released a book about his detransition called Gender Madness, and along the way, he suddenly became a right-wing talking head that was vocally against trans rights for news outlets like Fox News and others across the world. It was a sharp, sharp turn, and in my opinion, one of the most blatant examples of a grift imaginable. My team and I have been working off and on an Ollie London doc for a long time now, and eventually we'll drop it on the world when Ollie really needs to, have a Swoop doc. Thankfully, almost everyone seems to realize Ollie's very damaging rhetoric is also a bad grift and doesn't seem to take him very seriously. The same can be said for Hannah, whose sharp pivot into this type of language, superiorist language, is just as dramatic as Ollie's, though interestingly has been the subject of a lot of ire.
What you pointed out is that we're really facing a crisis of societal conscience
where someone like Pearl, who engages in hate speech, and actually the irony is she's complaining about being canceled, and yet she's on your platform. She has millions of viewers on the internet and on social media, and she's complaining about being canceled. The crisis is that this is what is profitable now. This clickbait, this type of racial incitement is profitable on the internet. And you know, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to Pearl. I don't know if she's just plain stupid or she's actually quite intelligent and knows that what she's doing is so sensational that it's going to make her a lot of money. But I want to say one thing, Pearl will disappear. She will disappear, like many others before her, because this is something that's just a moment in time. She's like a train wreck. It's like a car crash. You know, for example, you know you shouldn't be looking at it, but you can't take your eyes off. You can see what her opinions are. She thinks women shouldn't vote, women shouldn't have the right to divorce. She thinks that women shouldn't be able to work. She says these
I didn't say
crazy things about Hitler. But there's no rational, please don't interrupt. There's no rational argument with someone like this. And this is a mistake that my community makes, the Jewish community, very often, that they think they can bring facts to the table, that they can debate somebody like Pearl and it's, you know, you're gonna get somewhere. You're not gonna get anywhere.
Like, I've even talked to people that work at like abuse centers, and they say that the majority of abuse is mutual. So it's not just one side's hitting the other, it's like mutual. So
things got even worse on a different side of the internet when Hannah, who wanted to expand her brand a bit, decided to hop on over to a wildly different side of the internet and accept an interview from the one, the only H3 and Ethan Klein.
Computer. Okay, so stay with me, okay? Detective Swoop, okay? We're doing this. So when you—
I'm with you, girl. Swoop!
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Swoop!
This is gonna be fun to watch.
I believe in family, so I think that we should have policies that push family. I think that feminism overall was a bad thing. I think women are happier when we have, you know, a family and kids over a career in the long run. Yeah.
This is how Hannah starts her interview. Now, Hannah actually admits right up front that she's nervous, and truth be told, she should be, because Ethan is exceptional at conducting interviews.
Like, some things you just learn from interviewing hundreds of people, you see patterns.
Right, but sometimes when you interview people, you interviewing specific people with specific experiences, you're obviously gonna run into a bias.
Now, right before this clip, Hannah said she's fully willing to admit when she's wrong, but consistently proves throughout the interview that she's unwilling to budge when she's challenged on ideas like, I don't know, alleging that kids from single mother households are at a disadvantage, or that divorce should be made illegal, or this mess of a conversation.
I'm assuming your stance is abortion should be off the table in any situation.
Yes.
So if a dad rapes his daughter, then she needs to give birth to that baby.
You know, that's less than 1% of cases. Why do you guys always bring up— I know,
but that's important, Pearl.
Bring up the most,
because
fringe
if you're going to have a conversation about difficult things, let's talk about the difficult things. This is why the laws exist. The laws exist to protect that little girl.
I'm saying let's talk about the most common thing.
That's
first.
easy.
And
That's easy.
But I'm saying
that's not what's difficult about this.
But I'm saying we can get to the difficult things later. But it's like, why do you guys bring
because
up the
that's
most
the interesting part. I'm telling you, the law is there to protect on those fringe cases.
I'm saying,
I'm telling you why.
Why don't we start with the majority of
Didn't
abortion?
we just do that?
You think? Okay.
Now, I don't think I need to argue the ethics of forcing a child to give birth after she's been SA'd by her father. I was SA'd as a child by a significantly older adult, but I was lucky enough to not have even had my first period when that started, so I couldn't be impregnated. Not every harmed child or individual is that lucky, and this in particular is not up for debate in the comments. If someone is watching this and wants to debate that, I'm not the one. But back to it. As Ethan himself puts it, a lot of this conversation revolves around the two of them arguing in circles, with Hannah often answering portions of the question she wants to answer while ignoring the key components Ethan has framed within his own questions.
You know, but yeah, they're both irresponsible. That men do not have the choice.
I understand what you're saying, but
women, yeah.
But then, okay, whatever. We're arguing in circles a little bit. Let's talk about abortion then, since you're against option.
As I'm sure you've seen in my docs or other videos, this is a really common but disingenuous way for bad actors to respond without responding. But what's interesting is that she actually seems to acknowledge that directly within her answer here. Like, Hannah is well aware that she's not answering the questions, and no matter how armed with facts she claims to be, she is fully willing to quintuple down on the takes that are making her the most money.
But it's like, I used to read actual slave accounts, and I was surprised how many didn't say bad things about their owners after they were free.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say, like, slavery was a horrible institution, but I can't talk about that fact without getting canceled. I can't say, hey, these slaves had a good relationship with their owners
Because
without
it's
getting
not
canceled.
true. Because it's just not true. It's not true. What George Washington was not a father figure to his slaves.
Well, if you look up, like, I think it was Booker T.
47, let's see, 47 of George Washington's slaves tried to escape.
But I'm asking, like, why are you bringing this up when that's not really what my channel is about?
I can only ask you things about.
I
this is interesting. I want to ask you about it. But can only ask you things in a confined space about your channel?
You can, but you understand how that looks to me. It's like you're just trying to pick out every single.
Listen, Pearl. To be fair, to be totally fair, you could just say, "I don't think slavery was embellished."
Like you were
like
just
that's
talking
super
about, you
easy.
research, like,
That's a layup for most people.
I was quoting a book. That's the crazy part. I was quoting a book.
Stop it. Get some help.
I think she may have quintupled a little too hard in the wrong direction against the Black Manosphere guys, because...
Who's that?
Yeah, so Thomas Sowell's an author who talks about the history of slavery.
Oh, do you agree with that premise that slavery was embellished, or no?
I think that there are parts that are under-embellished and there are parts that are over-embellished. I think it just depends what we're talking about.
That's so interesting.
I would love to know too, just how slavery in this country was embellished. Please, Hannah, please do educate us all about your extensive knowledge and eyewitness accounts of how people forcibly owned and controlled by other people simply because of the color of their skin was embellished.
I've got to know what was over-embellished about slavery. Just like one example, I'm dying to know.
Yeah, I just rather, I was talking about a book that I read, and I think to understand the context, you'd have to read the book.
Well, this is delightful.
You just said some parts were embellished, some parts were under-embellished.
I just, again...
Are you retracting that?
I'd really just rather not.
Okay. No, but slavery being embellished, that's so interesting. I don't know how you embellish it.
There are certain facts that we're not allowed to talk about.
Like what? I would love to. We're doing the taboo. We're mixing it up. It's red pill, baby. Let's see the world as it is.
Taboo topics.
I genuinely want to know how it's embellished.
Yeah.
What can't we talk about? Come on.
I could show you the video I was quoting, but it's just, I'd rather not get into this, so.
Sounds like a blue pilled attitude to me.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping this was like a good faith interview.
Wait, what's bad faith? I'm literally showing you clips.
This is one of the most wild slip-ups I've seen maybe ever on any podcast, any YouTube video, and even in the hollowed halls of Ethan Klein's interviews. Hannah Pearl Davis explicitly reveals in this interview that she believes slavery was embellished to some degree because some slaves had good relationships with their masters.
I think that certain slaves had good relationships with their owners. Not all, maybe not most, but I think some did.
And that just
and there are accounts of them saying this.
So some slaves had good relationships with their masters. Therefore, slavery was embellished.
You know how this is going to go for me. Like, I don't know why you're doing this. You know I can't have this conversation without them painting it a certain way.
Well, just own it then. Just do it. Just say what you want. You know what I mean? Just be red-pilled about it.
Sidebar, but this is actually some she has said before too, so this isn't a sudden pivot.
Would you say George Washington was a real man?
I don't know enough about him.
You guys don't too. You don't know George?
We're
really?
UK, like, you don't know about George Washington.
Yeah, fair enough. I just think, like, if someone's a great and powerful man in history to the point, like, they're talking about him hundreds of years later, he didn't have any kids, but...
Didn't he own slaves?
What?
Did he own slaves? George Washington.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, not a real man to me. I'm just saying.
No, it's actually interesting. He had a different, like, he inherited his slaves. And it wasn't as simple as he could have just like let them go, because the debt that's incurred on them, like you can't just release them. And so his slaves actually, like, he had a really good relationship with them, and they considered him like a dad.
I can't stand ignorant Karens who conveniently ignore the psychological and systemically racist context that American slavery did to the minds of slaves. If there are instances, far and few as they realistically are, of slaves thinking of their owners as fathers, why the might you think that is, Pearl? Could it be the psychological trauma bond of forced servitude, where you're denied education, resources, and access to your own freedom, family, and autonomy, where your only choices are A, you either obey your master and feign gratitude, or B, you're whipped, sold, or hung in a tree? Might that be a reason, Pearl? But back to H3, Ethan tries to get her to double down if she really believes this, and then this happens.
When you're talking about...
You didn't know any of the backlash I got.
Well, who cares? You said it. Just own it.
No, I'm asking. You didn't know any of the backlash I got.
I didn't know about it.
No idea, even though you got that from a video that my ex-co-host made about me.
Right. Right.
See, like, this is dishonest. It's not honest.
But what's the problem? You're getting backlash for something that you think.
But I'm saying, so you're like.
A hard turn into defensiveness and a pivot into ad hom attacks on Ethan for the deadly sin of having his team research the person he's about to interview for 2 hours.
Like, because you got that clip from an like.
Okay, who cares?
We're not here to protect your reputation.
Yeah, I mean, who cares? Let's say care. I didn't know about it to the extent that it was such an issue for you, but let's just say it was. I mean,
I do have to go though, because I have a show coming up. So.
Okay, let's just end on this note.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery was embellished because some masters had good relationships with their masters. Some slaves had good relationships with their masters.
All right.
But don't you see how easy it is to just say, I don't think it was embellished? I don't think it's a secret.
You guys act just like Abba and Preach.
Like,
you
Pearl,
act just like them.
Wait, Pearl, I don't think it's a secret that some masters had good relationships with their slaves. I don't think that's a secret. There's been a whole diverse.
I really appreciate you having me on, but I'm gonna go. Thank you.
George,
thank you.
Okay, I appreciate. Okay,
she hung up.
Have a good night. Have a good night.
She hung up.
Whoa.
This podcast was the sharpest decline yet for Hannah, because now she wasn't just a pick-me girl courting the manosphere. She was viewed as a rising star in the spaces that believed these types of BS things, something she solidified with her most infamous moment yet.
Over 20 bodies as a chick, you have an 80% chance of cheating.
20 whole month, old people, yeah.
God can forgive you, but men don't have to.
The last thing I want to cover, the lawsuits. Now let me explain. You've seen a lot of clips from a panel type show on Hannah's called The Pregame Show. There was this one episode back in March 2022 with the title of Your Body Count Matters. If you get pregnant, it is your own fault, and featured guests Amy and Kit. Well, shittleBits. Since I started this research, this video has since been deleted for reasons. But to give you an idea of what Pearl and the Red Pill Gang think about body counts.
If body count doesn't matter, why do women lie about it?
Well, it does matter, and that's why women lie. Because, like, they want, it's like, because the more men you sleep with, the less valuable you are. So they're trying to sell a used Honda Civic at BMW prices, and if they tell the dealer, the buyer, the mileage, then they have to lower the price.
During the nearly 4 hours of interview, all three of them had a debate over whether somebody's SUL history should matter to a potential or current partner. Specifically, how many people you've had S with, your body count, fun topic.
People don't like this study, so there's a couple different ones, but if you're a virgin on your wedding night, you have an 80% chance of a happy marriage. So there's a couple studies that say 60 to 70%, so it depends which one, but it drops to a 25%
50% chance after like 5 to 7 partners. So you're basically ruined after like 5 to 7.
Because,
Just, you know, if you guys are curious. None of us in here can be considered traditional women. And back then, an average guy could get a traditional woman. And now what does he get? He gets a boss bitch, a boss babe, a girl that's been ran through. He gets an ex-hoe. He gets a born-again virgin. Like,
what do
this
I
is,
get?
as women, this is what do we get? We still get protection and provisioning.
Are you sure?
And the average salary, here's the thing. The average salary could cover an apartment. But the thing is, like, women, we want this lifestyle that's not even realistic nowadays. Like, we want men that make more than we do, and we want them to pay all of the bills. But it's like, we all have our nails done, we have, we get our hair dyed, we have makeup, we have all of this stuff that costs money because we want this lifestyle. And I've had girls come on my show, and I say, would you date an average guy for companionship? But you would have to go down in lifestyle. And they say, no, we're addicted to lifestyle.
Everything would have been fine if Hannah hadn't decided to cut the interview up and market it with titles like Debate, Should Men Be Blamed for Leaving Women Who Gain 50 Pounds, Feminists versus Pearl, and Delusional Feminists Think Men Have It Easy. Shockingly, Amy didn't appreciate Hannah referring to her as delusional and actually claimed that by Hannah doing this, it had irrevocable effects on her personal life. So she sued Hannah.
Hello, my name is Amy, and I am taking legal action against online content creator JustPearlyThings. Candace Braithwaite taught me that silence can never be misquoted, and so for the past year I have remained silent, dealing with this privately and outside of the public eye. I have no choice now but to come forward because I need help raising funds for the next part of my case. Before I share my story and some context around why legal action was necessary, I want to make it clear that I won't be attacking Pearl, who I will be referring to by her legal name, Hannah Davis. This case has nothing to do with her as an individual, her beliefs or views. It focuses solely on bad business practices that she implemented, which in turn violated my personal rights and UK laws, and the subsequent damage and harm she caused with some knowing intention. I will be sharing what I'm allowed to under the guidance and supervision of my team of solicitors at Cohen Davis, who have been representing me this past year. I will be discussing my vulnerabilities, the damages done, reasons why I'm taking civil action, conversations between relevant parties, and why the case has now escalated from simply a civil matter to a criminal one, and why the police have had to become involved.
In a TikTok posted on April 12, 2023, Amy revealed that she was suing Hannah for the exploitation and humiliation of a vulnerable person and had teamed up with Cohen Davis for, quote, bad business practices that she implemented, which in turn violated my personal rights and UK laws, and the subsequent damage and harm she caused with some knowing intention. And to be clear, Amy made a point to mention that this had extended past a civil matter into a criminal one.
The image of me that Hannah attempted to portray online is false, defamatory, and could not be further from who I am. I am legally and formally recognised as a vulnerable adult. I have autism and borderline personality disorder, both of which Hannah was aware of. On
a GoFundMe page for her illegal fight against Hannah, she claims that she was put on the show under deceptive pretenses and had no idea how the show would be marketed. Quote, I did not sign any documents, no contract waivers or release forms. In addition, the recruitment method used has been identified as violating the terms of the Fraud Act 2016, with the result being the blatant exploitation of a vulnerable adult for humiliation and commercial gain. All of this is pending and therefore is alleged, but it's worth noting that this isn't the only legal action Hannah is currently involved in. I talked around this earlier, but one of the other big reasons the Black manosphere turned against her is because of a bombshell video released by her former co-host, Sarah Garvey, in March 2023, where he alleged that Hannah Pearl Davis has a colonialist mindset and compares her business to a plantation.
The more I worked with her is the more that I saw. She had a colonial type viewpoint when it came to Black people. I had to school her a few times on what it was like to be Black and the Black experience, and also what slavery and colonization was actually like.
Do you think that historical catastrophes must be compensated for?
No.
No.
That's stupid.
So then, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing.
Yeah.
So then, how come there were groups of people that got compensation then?
What? Well, I'm talking about, like, when I think about group, I think about reparations. So I mean, maybe if the people were still alive today, like, I don't know, maybe. But
there's a book, right, called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And when you read that book, you realize that the whole Industrial Revolution and stuff like that was started because of the colonization. And you just think, Well, if you didn't do that, then you wouldn't be as successful.
Pearl has Africans that work for her. Now, Nigeria has many issues. Now, the disparity in Nigeria has rich and poor people living just on the breadline. And Pearl has these types of people working for her. They edit her videos. They make her thumbnails.
So, look what I have here. This is evidence to show how hard my Americans work.
No, hold on. You forgot, yeah? This is how hard my white Americans work.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
They're very hard workers.
So Pearl has taken people on from Africa, which on the surface looks like a good thing. And I guess it is. Africans are being fed, they're taking money from her. However, with a colonial mindset, this can be quite dangerous. And what happened during that interview with Nic Fuentes was that she used an age-old tactic that colonizers use, which was the divide and rule tactic. She pitted African Americans versus Africans when she spoke about how hard Africans work compared to how hard African Americans work. And she also used the term my Africans.
Now, Hannah has claimed to various sources that she considers Sahra's statements defamatory and is considering taking legal actions, telling Insider that Sahra, quote, has had an agenda against me for months. Everything about these allegations are quite illuminating for a number of reasons that circle back to what I was talking about in considering intersectionality from a different vantage point, because what Sahra is describing is a big controversy within the creator space right now regarding unconventional working relationships. Sahra alleges that he used to work on a pay per appearance basis for Hannah before she tried to change his deal to a 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. workday for 30% of the video's ad revenue, but he turned it down for being both too little and potentially too chaotic. Now, this kind of deal could be a decent deal or a potentially catastrophic deal, especially depending on what his per appearance fee was before. For a larger channel, 30% of the ad revenue could be quite lucrative, maybe, but for a channel like Hannah's, whose traffic only ever seems to spike when she hits the jackpot, with a topic, or, when she platforms Romanian Andrew Tate, this is, as Sahra says, pittance. And what's made worse is that, according to Sahra, many of her workers who Sahra alleges are Nigerian immigrants are allegedly paid much, much less than minimum wage, no salary, in a move that Sahra compares to plantation-style wage salary. Listen, I'm not forming an opinion here one way or another because there's not enough, at least public information on some of these claims. At the moment, there's no word on whether either of these lawsuits have progressed since their initial filings, although Pearl has said there's a legal thing underway. But the truth is there's evidence supporting the claims that Hannah Pearl Davis manipulated a woman into being humiliated on her podcast. Ironically, in the same way that Pearl went after Piers and said that they manipulated her, there's a woman who said that Pearl did that to her. But there's also evidence to suggest that her business practices have been focused on exploiting Black people, particularly African immigrants. She literally referred to them as my Africans in a clip. There is a very real chance that it won't be the weird red pill content that becomes her biggest problem. It might be Black folks. So, in a twist of fate that has the Pearlosphere quaking with a bittersweet taste of justice, the Just Pearly Things channel was fully and completely demonetized.
Oh look, an idiot. Let's point and laugh.
In an oyster shell, she made street interview content asking 15-year-old inappropriate things and then blasted said 15-year-old in many clips online. Winner, winner, f your dinner. And while the rest of the non-pilled world celebrated, apparently so did Pearl.
So I think that getting demonetized was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Sure, Pearl. Listen, y'all can watch this video in full if you want. It's newer on her channel. It's basically Pearl trying to say that losing her main source of income and the ability to pay her team was a blessing, blah, 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 blah.
So when I got demonetized, I was forced to stop the shows, which I hated doing anyways. I was also forced to... I liked him in the beginning, but by the end I was done. And I was also forced to downsize, which was really hard. I really didn't want to do it. But
But it was like the smaller we got the last couple of months, it was like less stressful on me. And I was looking back in hindsight and I just thought this probably is gonna be, it was really hard, but it's probably gonna be the best thing that ever happened to me.
Well, I think that most of us can be thankful that Pearl has less stress in her life and most of her content wiped off of the internet, allegedly.
No, this time Pearl made a video for her YouTube channel called "These Girls Are So Clueless," which has since been taken down, but in which she interviewed multiple people, including 2 underage girls, with invasive questions about their sex life. Even had the parents of the girls reaching out asking her if she could please take down the video as it was inappropriate, which she ignored.
Now, beyond this, there are other things, like Pearl tried to start her own network, the Audacity Network, where she employs other potentially misogynistic creators or conspiracy theory people who spend their time digging at women and, you know, just everything that you would expect it was going to be. I'm just honestly, just throw it all away at this point. I'm done. Oh, child, I am exhausted. I think we need a bit of a kitty palate cleanser, and then I will conclude with my final thoughts. And let me tell you, the last line of this doc is it's pretty fire, okay? Because I think it sums everything up, at least what I'm thinking. The billing department, though, the billing department is thriving, honey. They gave me so much joy. Oh my gosh. Okay, remember, you can grab your pieces from the Petty University Valid collection and the Valid rib cage by tapping the link below and in the pinned comments. I designed these pieces for anyone who's looking for clothing with positive reminders that you are incredible, beautiful, and valid. You are, no matter what you look like, no matter what you've lived through or what you want to do in life. And I truly believe that you're going to love these pieces as much as I do. And I absolutely love seeing photos of you. Thank you so much for sending them and tagging me on Instagram. And I love trying to share them to my Instagram stories as well. You can also, speaking of, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Both are linked below. That's where I post most often. I have polls, check in on live, and post opportunities to be featured in upcoming Swoop docs. And please keep dropping your topic requests in the comments of this video and all of those good things. Also, if you didn't know, I have a brand new second channel. It is called Swoop 2, T-O-O. That's where we dip into the dark waters of the sus pool, where everything and everyone is sus. Yes, maybe even us, okay? We dip into all kinds of dark, bizarre, and mind-bending stories, true crime, and unhinged stories. The videos are much shorter, so yeah, it is a great time over there. Thank you for subscribing here. Thank you for subscribing there. We really do have the most amazing community, and I am so thankful for each and every single one of you. Be sure to check out the most buttery soft undies and bralettes ever with MeUndies, and hit the link in the description or go to MeUndies.com/swoop to get 20% off your first order plus free shipping, and treat yourself, honey. You deserve it. Here's the thing. I've already said a lot of my thoughts on Hannah Pearl Davis. As it stands, Hannah offers permission to hold misogynistic views just like Andrew Tate, but with the added bonus that Potato Tot could never have. She's a woman who tells young men they're superior and that it's okay to demand submission from other women. And she's also a woman telling young women that this is a great way to get popular. But the fact remains, men don't seem to want to pick the pick-me Pearl, beyond using her as a way to promote their misogynistic ideals. See, women, here's a woman who thinks y'all should submit to our every will. It's like the classic and pathetic tactic some racist people try to use. Well, I have a black friend, I have a brown friend who said it's okay for me to rampantly use these slurs, so there, you know? The question is, how long will Hannah be the cool girl before the internet tires of her and moves on to the next big thing? Sure, she might make a few bucks, but her wealth has nothing on Andrew Tate's. And ironically, according to her own narrative, she really shouldn't be earning money anyways. Like, she should be at home in the kitchen serving her man that she doesn't yet have. And that's not a dig. Those are the presented facts that she's shown. Building your career on a platform of internalized misogyny is like sacrificing your girlfriends to be popular with the football team at school. They might find you interesting and fun for a while. Usually it's more so just amusing, but eventually they're going to tire of you and move on, dare I say it, to a woman who actually feeds their minds, not so much their bellies. Yeah, times have changed. Because just like women have evolved past the archaic idea of outdated gender roles, so have a lot of men. good men, the kind of men who respect their women's independence, which leads to longer, healthier, divorce-free relationships. And at the end of the day, Hannah Pearl comes across as a woman who desperately wants to be wanted by society and by a man. And in this attempt to be wanted, she pleads to the very community of men who will never want a woman like her. Let's be real, she's a free-thinking, vocal, independent woman with a job she created, who is not afraid to speak her mind. I don't agree with essentially anything Pearl has to say, but isn't it ironic that she's become the very thing that she seems to hate so much? But you know, as I always say, when all else fails, stay ready, stay petty, class dismissed. Swoop!